good stuff. It's good. It's good. All right, so I said I was going to do a drum video, and here we are. I'm admittedly a little bit rusty. I haven't been playing a whole lot lately because I've been doing some other things in those other videos, if you've seen those. Okay, but I said I was going to do a drum video, and so we'll do this just real quick. So I started playing drums at a pretty young age, started taking lessons at 6, and I was very much raised in the sort of learn the rudiments, learn the fundamentals of drumming, and then applied that to the drum set later on. So I didn't really get much better at drum set until I was in high school, where I had a couple of good opportunities. Number one, playing with my friends in a rock band. We played pretty much punk rock and alternative rock, that sort of thing. The other one was actually playing in church. And at the time it was a Catholic church, and they wanted to do a contemporary mass for teenagers. And so they sort of employed one guy to organize a band, and my dad and I were going to be in this band. I was going to play drums, and my dad was playing guitar. And so I did this for most of the years I was in high school. And as I said, it was a Catholic church, and some of you may know that Catholic churches are very large and very reverberant. So it was there that I learned how to play with controlled dynamics. Because if you go in there and you play too loud, it's going to be a wash. So you had to play with, low dynamics, but articulate sort of tone. Articulate tone, I should say. I'm going pretty much unscripted here, so I'm probably going to fumble my words a little bit. So real quick, my setup is just a basic 5-piece setup with my Pearl Masterworks kit that I got a couple years ago. It's very, very great. I tend to tune with a little bit of top-endy sound. So I use coated ambassadors all around. I'm thinking about experimenting with different heads though. My other kit has clear pinstripes, and I tune those toms a lot lower, and so I'm probably gonna just experiment with different heads in the near future. But for now, coated ambassadors, kind of an industry standard. All Zildjian cymbals except for this old ride cymbal I have over here as a power ride. And I'm not sure how old it is. I know I got it from my old drum teacher with one of the sets that I bought from him. So somebody asked me once, how old is that cymbal? And I said, well, it's probably as old as I am. He's like, I think you're right. So that's it. One of my favorite drummers is Keith Carlock. And that little ditty that I played there at the beginning is pretty derivative of what he likes to do. But the main thing about Carlock's playing is it is such that a lot of players want to play with him, because he's always, his number one thing is to always set up the best possible groove. And so an example of that would be, let's say you're just going to play a basic rock beat. So something like this. And by the way, I want to mention I don't have any mics here. All I have is my phone, so this probably sounds pretty raw. If it sounds bad enough, I might not even post it. So why am I even saying that? If I'm not going to post it, why am I saying that? Anyway. So basic rock beat. Well, what Carlock would say is to sort of give that a little bit more groove and a little bit better feel is put a little more emphasis on the and counts. So if we're playing 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and on the hi-hat, we'll put a little emphasis on the ands. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and do a splash every now and then. 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 4. So, and then when it comes to the snare drum, rather than just playing counts 2 and 4, we'll also subdivide the 16th notes. And what I mean by that is we'll go 1 E and 2 E and we'll do ghost notes on the 16th counts that are off of the right hand. So now, the thing that's difficult about this is that you're basically having to play two different dynamic levels with both hands at the same time. And I think that is a concept that is frequently overlooked in drum set. You know, a lot of times we're thinking about we got to do things with all 4 of our limbs at the same time, and all those have to be different. But there's also the dynamic aspect of it. You know, for instance, so we're doing this with the right hand, and then we're doing something totally different with the left hand, with not only the rhythm, but also the dynamics. We don't want to play every ghost note loud, because then it won't have the kind of groove that we want it to have. So you'll end up, you end up instead of my ghost notes, I know you can't see it because the hi-hat's in the way. My ghost notes are only about an inch and a half stroke height off of the drum, much like a grace note and a flam. And so then we'll just add the bass drum to that feel. And then we can do more stuff with the bass drum to make it a little more funky. So that's kind of the basis of how he handles most beats. Also, you'll notice if he does a beat on the ride, which normally he likes to have his ride up here instead of over here, but I kind of use them interchangeably. This is a 17-inch A custom, and so it kind of works as a ride as well. So you'll notice he'll do this. Now, of course, on the ride cymbal, every stroke's going to be about the same. With the hi-hat, and a lot of drummers do this, he's not the only one. He'll go ahead and do 8 notes with the hi-hat, shaking it open and close. And so also and a little bit more tricky is to just do the hi-hat on the ands while you're doing the ride cymbal beat. And this is something I only learned to do maybe 5-6 years ago, something that I was working on, because it had never occurred to me until I heard it in a Carlock track that he played for Donald Fagen, the song What I Do on the Morph the Cat album. It sounded almost like a shaker track, but then when I really listened to it, it's like, wait a minute, he's doing that with the hi-hat. So it took me a long time to work that up. I had to do it very slowly. As with all things on the drum set, if you're not used to doing it, you have to do them slowly at first. But so you'd end up with this. So then that's just something that just adds to the groove. And, I noticed that when you do things like that with your drumming, it makes the other players, respond a little bit better in what they're playing. So it kind of just makes everything better. Let's see, what else? What else was I going to cover? Okay, so also, Carlock's basic patterns with soloing. Basically, it's based off of a groove, is what he would say. But one way that you can sort of break it down, and I'm going to have to do this on the snare drum. I know you can't see it because the hi-hat's in the way. I've got this is the best camera angle I can get with the drum set in my face because I'm so tall. But it can kind of be broken down like this. But what you want to do is keep steady 8th notes going in your right hand. Doesn't matter what you're hitting it on, but we can just do on the hi-hat right here. two accents maybe as well. I mean, there's two variants of it, so. Then you can do at the end of it as well. So that's kind of how I sort of started picking up on how to do that. I actually saw a little bit of a solo he plays transcribed somewhere. It wasn't all correct, but that part was. So yeah, once again, just the basic breakdown of it would just be. So the counting of it would be, let's see, 1 and 2 and 1 and 2. And then you do a 2 with the bass drum as well. And then so when you get the hang of that and it becomes more natural, you just sort of fiddle around, sort of noodling between the snare drum and the bass drum, much like you would playing time in jazz. So you just kind of, you know. Now, the difference between me and Carlock, obviously Carlock's a lot better. He's also, the way he plays, he's got this trip hammer left hand, which a lot of great drummers have this. And I haven't fully developed that yet. I'm not sure if it's a problem with coordination or a problem with stamina in my left hand. I mean, my technique's fairly good. Speaking of which, my technique, if you'll notice, I play drum set very much like a timpani player would play timpani most of the time. Just depends on what I'm playing. Okay, so the third thing with Carlock is everyone asks him about the rolling fill that he does, and he would say that it basically cannot be written or transcribed, because if you try to do that, it's going to be too far out of time and it won't make much sense. So what it is he's doing a double stroke roll, and right as he's doing this, he'll go into what was like kind of a 4-stroke off or a single stroke 4, where the first 2 notes are on the bass drum and the second 2 are on 2 of the toms, or sometimes they're both on the snare drum. So it'll be that sometimes too. So you kind of have to time that with the roll. So you kind of end up. We'll do that. Now, the other thing I should mention about Keith is most of the time he uses traditional grip. I do not. I can try to do a traditional grip. Maybe we'll try that right now. Well, it's a little bit harder to do because I don't have the drums set up for how I want to do that. So yeah, match grip for me. But so that's kind of how that goes. A way to kind of work on that slowly is to just, what you're going to want to do is match up the first 2 notes on the bass drum with the double stroke on your left before you go to the tom. So whoop, mistake. So you just kind of have to work that up, and it's really hard to work it into the middle of a song, because if I try to do this in the middle of a song, it goes a little bit out of time. I can come back on it on one. For instance, so let's say we're doing like a solo. I'm not sure how many beats I put in that right there. I wasn't counting it. I should probably practice that with a click track too. That would be probably a good thing. But I have done it a few times, and it's able to come back, on a downbeat. Just not sure which one it is. So it's a work in progress. So yeah, that's basically what I wanted to cover with my first drum video here. One other thing, get another drink of coffee here. I've got like a dull headache going on today, and took a ibuprofen, and I usually only drink coffee in the morning. Decided to have a little bit tonight too. Thought it would help. So the other thing about drums is one of the main ideas I go by is you always want to play whatever is appropriate for the setting. In other words, let's say dynamics. If you're playing in a country club, don't play as if you're in an amphitheater, because it'll be too loud and it'll just be obnoxious. But the reverse of that, if you're playing in an amphitheater, don't play like you're in a country club, unless it's okay, unless you've got everything mic'd up and the sound guy's like, okay, play however you want. So there's that. Also, at the beginning of the video, I mentioned about changing the beat a little bit to add some groove to it. Sometimes that's not appropriate. It depends on what song you're playing. Sometimes you're playing a song and really you just need to do this. You just need to do this. And if you start to funk that up a little bit too much, it just won't, it won't seem right. Unless the other players go along with it and find a way to make it work. But mainly you just probably just want to keep it appropriate for whatever the song is. Especially if you're playing something like Owner of a Lonely Heart. Wait, the beat's very simple. So, that's basically the whole thing. I don't know if you want to play the whole thing, that's just too much. There needs to be a little bit more open space in a song like that. Except during the guitar solo, I guess, it opens up a little bit. But yeah, play whatever is most appropriate for the setting. I guess another final word is no two drummers do things alike. I'll make a drum video and I'll say, well, this is what I do, and you'll go to the next guy and he's completely different, or he'll completely disagree with everything I say, and that's fine. Whatever. I don't really have an ego about how I play. I kind of pick and choose things from different players as I go along. Famous players, and this is kind of how I learn. I can't really afford to take lessons with anyone anymore, especially since we have the baby on the way. And the other unfortunate thing is, once the baby comes, I may not be able to play quite as much, because undoubtedly it's going to hurt his ears. But we'll see. I was told that my mother always said that in my mother's womb I was always kicking along to the music that she was listening to, or if she was out listening to one of my dad's bands, I was kicking along to it in her stomach. I don't know if there's any truth to that or not, but that's what she thinks. So that's all for today, and everyone take care, and try not to get a headache.